What we've got going on this last year, we really started off our HAB activity this year. It was about mid-June. Typically, a lot of times we won't actually see a documented harmful algal bloom until July in Idaho. That being said, it's still always a possibility that we will get it earlier. The fact that we saw it in mid-June surprised a little bit, but not as much as it would have been preferred. This one occurred on Cascade Reservoir, which is part of the Payette River system. This is an actual aerial shot of it when it occurred. You can kind of see right down here right here where a boat or some type of vehicle was going through the bloom. We actually lucked out a little bit on this one. When the surface water staff went out and did tests on the bloom, one of the things they tested for was the qPCR, where it was the genome testing. And luckily, the species that we were finding in there, looking at the gene sequence, they weren't able to really produce much toxin. So we were pretty relieved on that one. For recreational advisories that we had, these are all water bodies that we actually had a recreational health advisory issued on. We did have one different situation, and this is actually pretty much the first time we've tried this as a state. And I'm not just talking about DEQ, but I'm talking about health and welfare, and one of the health districts, some of the Fish and Game people, is that in mid-October, we had a situation, and it wasn't the only animal death that occurred, but this one that we have reported to us, but this one really, we ended up getting a lot of focus on it. It was an area that we really did not, in the Payette River system, that we don't actually see a lot of known blooms for. If you're going to see it, it's usually along Cascade Reservoir and along the Payette River upstream or Horseshoe Bend. This one was down below the Black Canyon Dam, which we haven't had any documented HABs there. And a dog had gone into the river just to get a drink, had come back out of it, and cleaned its paws off, and within 20 minutes was dead. We don't have a necropsy from the dog to know. We can't verify what it was, but the way the dog died, how rapidly it died, we highly were suspicious of anatoxin dose. The owners of the dog, who happened to live out in that area, grabbed some water. It wasn't the most scientific way of taking the sample, but they did get some water that day at where it had occurred and sent it to one of the laboratories capable of doing ELISA testing, and came back with microcystin at, it was 0.5, and the anatoxin levels came back at 0.6. Unfortunately, by the time we had found out about it, it was 5 days after the dog had passed away. And we were only able to still find some microsystems, but even that level had dropped pretty significantly. Where they found it at was in an area upstream of the dam, and then again at the site where the dog had been into the river. And we didn't actually see it in the water at that stage there, but they took samples of these mats that were growing along the bottom of the river and sent that in for testing. And we did see some microsystems, though at that point, low levels. But keep in mind, this was also 5 days after that. So it was enough. It was an area that sees a lot of hunting that takes place. We were very worried about people taking their dogs in there. We never actually issued advisories based on animal deaths, only on actual water samples. Up at this level, this top slide right here, this top table. That's when we have actually issued a recreational water advisory. But since this was an area we were expecting to see a lot of people doing hunting, taking their dogs out to, we got together with a lot of other agencies, talked it over, and we decided to issue a warning so that hopefully we could avoid anyone else losing their dog at that time. Not long before that, we also ended up in different parts of the state. We had some cattle death connected to some private ponds. There was also a horse that survived, but ended up with very severe veterinary bills for the owner. I don't know the long-term health effects for the horse, but they were able to save him. And that was after getting into a reservoir and drinking some water. Now, one of the things I really want the drinking water operators to take from this is on these recreational health advisories. I wish you would really pay attention to when Idaho issues a recreational health advisory, say microsystems are the most common ones, that's going to be because it's at 4 micrograms per liter or higher. That's actually a pretty conservative level for recreational water advisory, but when you think about it, these are based on human exposures, assuming, boating, maybe splashing around in the water. This is not taking into account anyone or anything drinking the water. So for humans, and this is for finished drinking water, the health advisories we have for microsystem for under 6 years of age is going to be that 0.3 micrograms per liter. Turning it older, the 1.6. So I just want you to kind of think about that. Just because a recreational health advisory is not issued on a water body that might be connected to your source water, that doesn't mean that it's still not a risk for your water system. And it's not something that's like, oh, they didn't do a recreational health advisory, we're good. Keep in mind, these levels are much higher than what you would be worried about for drinking water. So I just want everybody to kind of keep that in mind, is don't base all your reactions on whether a recreational water advisory is issued or not. Now, one of the things that we did this year is we had some emerging contaminant funding. And so we looked at what we could do to help water systems. So one of the things we ended up doing is purchasing 4 test strip scanners and purchased test strips for microcystin and amatoxin A that could be used, that are levels that are low enough to be able to be used in raw water samples. We didn't get any for finished water samples. If anyone is interested in finished water, the only one they have available at this time is for microcystin. One of the things that we liked about the test strips, besides the fact that you can get some immediate results, is that really a 2015 study that was looking at them really didn't see an issue getting false negatives. During that study, they really only was looking at 1%. False positives were a bigger issue for them. They were seen at about 38%. But going through the study, researching into the reason for that, it wasn't exactly the test strip, it's reader error. So the company went out and actually our surface water staff worked with them several years ago on making improvements to the test strip. So it's actually gotten a lot easier for people to read by eye. But still, we were concerned about just relying on eyeballing the test strips to base on a positive result. So we purchased these scanners that water systems could check out of their regional office and be able to use to get more accurate results. Now, from what I've heard from the regional office, it went out Horseshoe Bend. Some water was tested at Horseshoe Bend, and then they were also checked out at Salmon and Chalice. I have not heard all the comments yet from everybody. I did get another request to see about getting another scanner and some test strips for the Boise Regional Office. Hopefully I'll hear a little bit more. If any public water systems are interested in using this as a screening method, again, I wouldn't recommend using this the base advisories on, but using it as a screening method for your raw water. Let us know. If more people are interested, we can see about getting some more supplies on that to help you out. If you are interested in just purchasing your own, so you don't have to worry about sending it back or anything like that, I can get you the information on where we purchased it. If there's any chance we can find funding to help you, we certainly look into that. Something else that we got involved with, we actually ended up in a unique situation with the Bureau of Reclamation, again on Cascade Reservoir. I'm picking on them a lot, but they tend to get a lot, multiple blooms every year. They're trying to figure out basically how to better move the water through the reservoir to try to cut back on HABs performance. So we tried it they were able to get some money to be able to do some of this. And since DEQ has already been looking into these issues, not to mention the fact that they're upstream of some public water systems, we wanted to get a better idea of what's going on out there and what types of toxins do we need to worry about. From a previous sample taken after the reservoir at this whitewater park, we know some of from the qPCR, there was some cyanobacteria that were found that could have been capable of releasing saxitoxin, which is not something that we've normally associated here in Idaho. So it's got us questioning just when it comes to fluorous formopsin and saxitoxin, is it something we really need to worry about or not? So with the money that Bureau of Rec is able to get, they got some supplies together, which are thankfully not very expensive. It's the testing that tends to be the cost, and then actually doing the work. But we took these and put this material in these mesh bags, and then we went out and predominantly the Surface Water Division, we would go out and we would place these bags in different places in Cascade Reservoir, and then in 4 different locations in the Payette River between Cascade and Horseshoe Bend, one of them being at the intakes for Horseshoe Bend. We actually had enough material, and we're able to utilize some of the emerging contaminant funding to also set them out in Snake River at nearby the Glenns Ferry drinking water. Now, because of cost restrictions, Bureau of Rec will be actually running these tests. We ended up freezing all of these bags, and they're going to be running these tests actually quite soon. And so we'll be able to take a look and see what types of toxins were present. And because of the time frames, as we switch these out every 1 to 2 weeks, we'll be able to take a look at the time frame of when these toxins were present in the water. So we're going to be running all 4 of the common toxins, microcystin, antitoxinase, phylloderspinopsin, and saxitoxin. So we can hopefully get a better idea what kind of toxins might be present in both the fayette and the snake, at least near Horseshoe Bend and Glen Cove. So we are actually, with some of that information going out and kind of learning the good and bad parts of SPAT monitoring, we are actually taking a look at we're working on a proposed study that will hopefully go over the next 3 years if we get the money. It'll be something that will be a cooperative between the surface water and the drinking water divisions at DEQ, with some support from some other agencies possibly, and actually doing different forms of monitoring in the Fayette River and seeing what might be of most use as a monitoring tool for a public water system. So if it all goes well, we're going to be working with the satellite imagery, which is something that we can just download easily. The SPAT monitoring, that will also be dependent on, we're hoping to see what we can work out with the state laboratories since they're closer. But we may be looking at either Echo Solutions or Anatech to get toxin results from SPAT so we could get those in a much faster turnaround time. Looking at phycocyanin remote sensing devices, we're hoping to be able to get 2 of them and put them in different places, one at the intake and then again somewhere upstream, either in the reservoir or just right after the reservoir. And then also looking at doing some different grab samples that would include the qPCI, toxin, and some genus and species identification. Hopefully this would actually give us some good, strong data that we can then give to our other water systems and let them see how well it worked out, while also working out some details with laboratories, see what we can get better what's a good way to put this, getting our labs a little better set up for cyanotoxin monitoring. So some of the trainings that are scheduled so far in Idaho, I will be giving 2 presentations at the Idaho Rural Water Association Spring Conference on March 8th. One of them will be on benthic HABs, which is, it's not the typical one. These are ones that we tend to worry a lot with when it comes to river systems, because they're not ones that show up very easily. It's possible that it's benthic HABs that occurred with the Columbia. Basically, that's where you've got mats forming on submerged like rocks and logs, things like that, that contain the cyanobacteria in there and can release toxins. You don't really see the same type of scum layer that you would see with what we call planktonic things, the ones that we're more acquainted with. So I'm going to give a talk about that to try to give more information on just how those form and how to identify them. And then the other one, we did have some issues this year for systems with, it's called geosmin and MID. They are not cyanotoxins, however, they're commonly formed from cyanobacteria, and they can cause some fairly significant taste and odor issues at very minute levels. So I did have a newsletter that went out this year that talked about some of those, and then I'll be giving a talk about that here on March 8th. We'll also be doing one of Rural Water's webinar Wednesdays on April 19th. It will be on a HAB topic, but we haven't decided what topic it would be. So if people have a preference on a specific area in 1 hour, just let me know so we can start, or somebody at Rural Water, and we can get that tailored pretty soon. And another question I'd like to ask the audience, once we get to the question session here, is there interest if we can do some in-person training in state? It's basically the training that you have today, just have it in person, or another in-person training on some other topics. You can either put it in the evaluation, or you can contact me directly if you need to think about it some more. But we would really like to know what is of most use to you. We will be continuing with the newsletters. I think many of you have been seeing them. If you haven't and you'd like to take a look at them, our past copies can be found on our website. Or you can always contact me if you're not seeing them, and I can get you on the mailing list. The newsletters, sometimes I don't hear anything about them, and then sometimes I get a lot of comments from operators and people. So I know the treatment one was quite popular. We're going to keep that going on. Next month, we're looking at helping break down how to use some of the satellite imagery better to help identify when a HAB might be forming near your water body, your source water. And last but not least, we are anticipating approximately $7.5 million to be made available to help fund construction projects connecting to emerging contaminants. Most likely, we're going to be looking at either projects that would be for PFAS or for cyanobacteria or toxins. In grant money, 100% grant money, we intend to be paired with drinking water state revolving fund projects. One of the things we need to be aware of, though, is the due date for putting in a letter of interest is January 13th. So it's coming up pretty quickly. If approved, and again, keep in mind this would be for construction projects. So like if you're upgrading your system to help protect yourself against cyanotoxins. The funding, if you're approved, it would be coming released after July 1st. If you want to look at that information more, you can take a look on our website and go to the state revolving fund to get more details. Specifically, it is the Drinking Water Emerging Contaminant Fund. You can also contact our Grants and Loans division if you want to ask a specific question. Any questions? Well, if anyone wants to talk or ask me any questions later on, you're more than welcome to contact me.